And so it's just going to be a beautiful, this community that we're building is just quite extraordinary. Now, when you speak about communities, there just doesn't get any better than Cedric Nwafor. He came as an Africa Middle East Leadership Amel project. We got invited here in San Francisco to this fundraiser, and he walked up to the stage, and from the moment he started to speak, my heartstrings were pulled forever. And now he is literal chosen family. He has been to our home in Kennebunkport, Maine numerous times. We are family, and we are deeply invested in what he is bringing into the world. Where you heard from Emily and Kwame in the primarily for-profit sector of regenerative agriculture, Cedric Nwafor has built an unbelievable program teaching regenerative agriculture to students in the University of Maryland, and then bringing it not to his home country of Cameroon, to Uganda and Liberia. So we welcome to the stage Cedric Nwafor. Love you. Can't wait to hear your story.
Cedric Nwafor, Cedric Nwafor, Cedric Nwafor.
Merci beaucoup. Okay, so it's August 15, 2015. I'm standing in this farm right next to Farmer Drew in Idaho. And he's telling me about his life as a farmer in Idaho. And at that moment, it dawned on me that this was the first time I've been close to mountains since I left Cameroon. So this took me back home. I'm 11 years old. I'm walking 11 miles with a heavy bag of corn, my neck hurting, my feet burning. And in the back of my mind, that night, we were still not guaranteed our next meal. I always wondered as a kid, how could the people that feed the world go to bed hungry? So fast forward a few years later, I made it to the US through my mom, who came as an asylee. I had the typical immigrant story. I worked in Kosi doing dishes. I worked at the Holiday Inn as a laundry person washing the laundry. And I was also a bellman. And one happy afternoon, I met this group of 11 farmers from Idaho. They heard about my story in agriculture. I was talking to their leader. His name is Rick Waitley. And Rick asked about my background. I told him about agriculture in Cameroon, what we grew. We grew corn. We grew legumes. We had 6 different farms, not your 400-acre farm here in the US, about a 1-acre or 2-acre farm. So when Rick heard about my background in agriculture, this group generously offered me to travel over to Idaho, and I stayed with over 10 farmers for 10 days. And that is how I found myself in Farmer Drew's farm, looking at those mountains, and then I got lost. I was watching the tractor on his farm. And at that moment, I realized that the amount of time it took, 5 minutes, for that tractor to till the soil was equivalent to the time my whole family worked for a week. So this tractor really became a symbol of resources, expertise, know-how, that if connected to the African continent in a regenerative, in an intentional manner, could help elevate families like mine out of hunger and poverty. One thing I'll tell you is that right next to one of our farms in this place called KTC was an agricultural school, and they had all of the knowledge and the technology there that if one student came out of KTC and told us, hey, Mama, plant your corn on a straight row, you get better yields. Oh, this is what your soil is missing. It might have guaranteed us a meal, but nobody came out. So now, that is the story that we see all across the African continent, right? You know that in some parts in the African continent, we have 1 extension agent to 10,000 farmers. Looks like my slides are not moving. Okay, there it is. Okay, but in the US, that's about 1 extension agent to 150 farmers. I know extension agent is a it might be a new term, but an extension agent is somebody that takes knowledge from an academic institution and spreads it into the community. And we have 1 to 10,000, and then you have 1 to 150. We have farmers that have never seen an extension agent. We have farmers that do not even know who an extension agent is, right? Also, in the continent, we've seen research that shows that out of all of the research that we do in the continent, only 13% reaches out to the last mile farmer. And out of that, only about 5% is actually applied. So now, when you ask yourself, why is it that millions of billions of dollars are being poured into the continent and we're barely making a dent in combating hunger and poverty? This is one of the major reasons. If farmers do not have the foundational knowledge of agriculture, every innovation that you pump into the country doesn't make it to the people that need it the most, so they do not grow. So, when I left Idaho, I made it back to the state of Maryland. I enrolled at the University of Maryland, studying agriculture and resource economics with one goal in mind: to connect academic institutions, experts in the US to farming community in Africa. We started as a student club. We were video conferencing with students in Liberia. We were using WebEx. That's when it was very innovative. So this speech would have been about how we use WebEx. So we were identifying challenges that farmers were facing. We fundraised. We traveled over to Liberia. We implemented the solutions for our farmers. But now we've grown into a movement of building agricultural change makers in Africa. They are not just going out to train farmers, they're training farmers as a business. So a change maker for us is an agricultural student who has studied agriculture. We give them the tools, the resources, and we tell them, yes, you can. And they go out into their community. They train farmers, not just train farmers, training them as a business. That is critical. So when you hear all of the grand challenges that you've seen here, right? You see one extension agent to 10,000 farmers. You see the gap in research not making it to the farmers. You've heard some of the grand challenges that we face in the world today. As founders, you want to keep grinding. Because when you come to the US, you have opportunity. Every minute counts. A minute of me mentoring or coaching a young change maker may mean a farmer gets trained for an entire season. $100 may mean a farmer gets training for an entire season. So why should you rest? Who gave you the right to rest when you could do so much? But a lifetime of this is not enough. Even a lifetime of continuously grinding, you cannot solve this problem. So now, as founders, we keep going. And in that process, I found myself in San Francisco, met Jen and Tim, and Tim was there too. So met Jen and Tim, and we kicked it off. They are my chosen family. So when they invited me for a day to breathe, I was ecstatic. A time to pause, right? So I came in for my day to breathe. One moment stood out to me. We were taking the nature walk, and I look down, and I see Land's End. And I've always meditated, and they'll tell me, hey, close your eyes. Imagine you are on a beach somewhere. The waves are coming. You hear the seagull and all of that. So most often I'll go to Thailand. I've never been to Thailand, but I close my eyes. Thailand is the place. But once I found Land's End, that became my place of peace. So in my days of chaos, when I close my eyes or when I meditate, I go to Land's End. So there were 3 things that came out of my day to breathe. 3 key insights. Number 1 is community has gravity. And you'll see a lot of pattern in our speeches today because Dr. Christine also touched on this. We would come and go. Roots Africa will come and go. Our change makers will come and go. But the community would always be there. So strengthening this community is our sole focus. You've all heard the saying that if you give a man a fish, you feed them for a day. You teach them how to fish, you feed them for life. But now, what happens when that river dries off? You teach them how to organize. So our sole focus is ensuring that we empower the community, we strengthen the communities that we work with, so that even if we are not there today, that community will still go on. The second key lesson that I came out of my day to breed, or insight that I came out from my day to breed, is data must and is our superpower. We measure everything. Whatever it could be, we measure it for ourselves so that we know that the impact that we're having is real and it will be there for a long time, but also for the community so that they can use it to empower themselves and drive their decision making. We also measure the community to ensure that we understand the resources and whoever is a key player in the space. There are a few things that we measure. We do a mindset assessment where we assess whether this community, are they a dependent community or are they a community that will own their problems and their solution. We also do resource mapping. This is a very, very important one, where we identify what are the existing resources that are in that community so that we can allow the community to leverage those resources. We measure things like the natural resources, the human capital that is in that community. What is the government currently doing? What are other NGOs doing? So you know, most often as NGOs, 100 of us will come to a community, we'll do one thing, and then we'll go. But there is this wise African saying that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So by identifying all of these tools and resources within the community, it gives us levers to pull those resources together to push that community forward. We also measure where the community is in their growth. We have the discovery stage, we have the foundational stage, we have the growth stage, we have the empowerment stage, and then we have the transformational stage where they become a model for other communities to come and learn from them. And it is our fervent belief that a community with the existing resources that they have, they can move from one stage to the next. The last and final thing that I came out of my day to breed, which is the ultimate key point that I would like to emphasize, is passing the walkaway test. And I remember Dr. Christine also mentioned this point. If we were to leave today, would our programs survive? If we leave today, would the program live with us, or would it stay there? And that to us is our ultimate measure of success. So, we've done our best to ensure that if we left, our programs will always be there. We've established 19 farmer businesses that train farmers. So these are students that go out, train farmers, and generate income. They're generating revenue from training farmers. These 648 change makers from 9 institutions in the continent have gone out and trained over 11,000 family households. So if we leave today, a community that owns its problems, it owns its solution, and change maker businesses that are still thriving, they are not leaving with us. They are staying in those communities. That's why, in spite of the drastic cuts that you've seen from USAID and funding going to the continent, despite all of its damages, organizations are reaching out to us to say, hey, how come you're still working? That's because the community owns the problem and the community owns their solution. So all what we are doing, thank you. So all what we are doing, we are partners in this journey. So now the one thing I would like to leave with you to ponder here and later on is what kind of supporter are you? Are you creating dependency or are you building change makers? So when you give, think about that for a second. Because in this story, if you're building change makers, you may not be the hero in that story, but you would have left change that will be there for generations to come. And as Dr. Christine said, the one thing I want you to remember, Africa really doesn't need charity. It needs change makers. And those change makers need resources, they need space, they need access in order to grow. Thank you so much.
That was incredible. Thank you so much, Cedric, for really telling us about your work with Roots Africa, but really that importance of understanding that there's so many moving parts that need to come together for enterprise of business to come to life. It is not easy, the work that you're doing. So thank you very much for sharing that.